So I have a stutter, and so it kind of brings me down a lot. So when I'm working on homework, I do try my best, but it kind of affects that because it just slows my thinking process, and I can't process a lot all at once. So it just kind of makes me do a little worse.
I struggle with anger-based bipolar and depression and anxiety, and my dad has bipolar and my sister has ADHD and anger issues, and so I've grown up just with all sorts of mental illnesses surrounding me.
There's just so much stigma around the idea of mental health. Oftentimes, people with mental disabilities are perceived as weak or violent, when in most cases that's not true. Because of this, it can be a shameful thing for a person with a mental disability to admit that they are mentally ill.
I have met some people who are like, no, it just doesn't exist.
I think a lot of times people see, or students, or even young adults, they see mental health as some kind of taboo, or something's wrong, or you're not allowed to have mental health struggles. And there's a whole spectrum of mental health where it can be very, very mild or it can be very, very severe. But in any of those situations, in all of those situations, it's a very natural thing. And that's a natural healing process too, that a lot of mental health services do not include surgery, they do not include medicine, they don't include anything invasive. A lot of it is information, talking, and just the feeling that you're wanted in life. And that's a good thing.
People with mental illness are seen as too lazy or too dangerous. Social isolation is significantly higher for those with ADHD compared to those with normal or daily troubles such as asthma. 40% of parents said they didn't want their kid hanging out with kids with depression.
Part of the stigma around mental health comes from the idea that mental disabilities coincide with violence. We see it all the time in cases like Columbine, where the perpetrator is claimed to have a mental disability, and that's supposedly the reason behind their actions. However, only 3 to 5% of overall violence is caused by people with mental disabilities, and people with mental disabilities are more likely to be the victim in such cases rather than the perpetrator.
I've seen students who, while they're otherwise very intelligent students, perform poorly in high-stress tasks like class presentations or testing situations. I've seen kids that I know are super creative, and yet when the class is involved in a conversation, they smile, and you can tell that they're actively listening, but they don't make any attempt to participate, and it's such a loss to the rest of the class.
I've seen mental disorder affect students in a variety of ways. A lot of times it can be related to anxiety, which can really hurt not only their sleeping habits, but their social circles, even their self-esteem, the communication that they have with teachers and with material and with themselves, but also in forms of depression, which comes with its whole other bag of tricks.
You know, all the homework that these teachers, they expect you to be able to do all these homework, but they assign 3 to 4 hours of homework sometimes, and it's crazy.
It stresses me out a lot just because of the homework load, and then just working with friends, it just all piles up.
Most kids come home from school with homework from every class that they're expected to finish. Many kids have after-school activities, a job, or are expected to hang out with their families, and at the same time are expected to get 8 hours of sleep.
Instead of being taught about mental disabilities, we're being taught that there's something we should be ashamed of, something that shouldn't be talked about. However, if somebody got the flu, we wouldn't call them crazy or weak. We wouldn't say that that's something to be ashamed of. So why are mental illnesses treated like they are? Caring for mental health is just as important as caring for physical health.
There's not a single person in this world who does not know someone that has a mental disorder or mental illness. They need to understand that it's a real thing. It's really happening and it's all around us.
Don't be afraid to speak out. One of the reasons why there are stigmas around mental health is because people believe the misconceptions too often. Let your close friends know, and maybe even people that you're not close to but that you have to have frequent contact with. Be forefront in educating those around you. If you have a technique that somebody has helped you to develop to help you to de-escalate when you're in a panic attack, let those who you frequently have to spend time with know what that technique is, because maybe if you're having trouble getting there yourself, they can help you get to that moment.
Reach out, and I know that's one of the hardest things to do, in that any individual that is suffering from mental instability or mental struggles or mental health struggles, there's that feeling that you're not supposed to reach out. One is that social taboo, but two, that obstacle, one of the obstacles could be this blockade that hinders someone to reach out. A lot of it is advice to individuals watching others. That maybe, say for instance, like if one individual is suffering from mental health obstacles, if they are aware and watching for signs of other individuals, like they're watching out for them too, hopefully those individuals out there are watching out for them. And so what I'm trying to say is that a lot of mental health services is about community. We have to help one another because we're not in this alone.